Jin Ruchao was born in 1960 and lived with his family in Shijiazhuang, Hebei Province. At the age of 8, Jin suffered from otitis media, which was not treated early, leading to severe hearing damage in both ears. This also affected his ability to speak. Teased and bullied by his classmates, Jin became increasingly insecure, withdrawn, and unwilling to communicate with others. Over time, he also began to exhibit violent tendencies. At home, he would often get angry, curse at his siblings, and destroy property when things didn't go his way. After graduating from middle school, Jin dropped out of school. His parents helped him get a job as a factory worker at a textile plant in 1976. Haunted by the experiences from his school days, Jin remained distant from his colleagues, always thinking they looked down on and mocked him. In 1984, Jin married a woman through an introduction and started a cosmetics business, which improved his financial situation. However, he frequently had affairs and physically abused his wife. In 1988, he became a father, but the birth of the child did not bring him any joy. He even used the excuse of doubting the child was his to intensify his abuse of his wife. After many years of enduring his mistreatment, his wife requested a divorce and returned to her parents' house. However, Jin followed her, causing trouble and threatening her, even assaulting her mother, which resulted in her hospitalization. While refusing to let go of his wife, Jin pursued another woman, using the money he and his wife had earned to buy gifts to win her over. After the woman accepted the gifts, Jin demanded sexual favors, but when she refused, he raped her and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. While Jin was imprisoned, his wife took care of his parents for 2 years before filing for a unilateral divorce. Upon learning of this, Jin became furious, accusing his wife of being ungrateful and insisting that she had been involved with other men during his incarceration, leading him to harbor thoughts of revenge. By 1994, Jin Ruchao's mother passed away in an accident. Upon hearing the news, he went into a rage, irrationally believing that his ex-wife was behind it as an act of revenge. Taking advantage of his family's plea for bail due to illness, Jin escaped and went to find his ex-wife. He kidnapped, beat, and tortured her, only to be arrested again after 21 days. In 1997, Jin Ruchao was released from prison. When he returned home, he became furious because his father had remarried, and he took out his anger on his stepmother. Jin often cursed her, and at times attacked her with a metal rod and kitchen knives. He would even beat his father if he tried to intervene. For a long period after his release, Jin did nothing productive. He simply asked his father and siblings for money, and if they refused, he would beat them. He frequently stole small items and brazenly robbed his neighbors, who were too afraid to resist. His violent and ruthless behavior, along with his criminal record for rape, caused his family to nearly cut off all contact with him, and neighbors kept their distance. In August 2000, while wandering the streets at night, Jin Ruchao encountered a homeless woman. The woman introduced herself as Wei Zhihua, a 26-year-old from Yunnan province. Wei explained that she had been kidnapped and sold to a disabled man, but later managed to escape. Since then, she had been living on the streets for several days without food. Pretending to be kind, Jin bought her food and drinks and offered her a place to stay. Thanks to Jin Ruchao's seemingly caring nature, Wei Zhihua gradually accepted living with him. However, after a brief period of peace, Jin's violent tendencies resurfaced. Whenever he saw Wei looking at any other man, he would immediately punch, kick, and even hit her over the head with a chair. He also forced Wei to steal from supermarkets to get money for his cigarettes. On November 11, 2000, Wei fled back to her hometown. At first, Jin didn't pay much attention to her disappearance, but his inability to find another lover began to irritate him. As a result, in early 2001, Jin traveled to Yunnan to look for Wei. On February 22, 2001, Jin found Wei's home address and told her he wanted to marry her, but she rejected him. Despite being turned away, Jin continued to harass her family. Wei's parents tried to get rid of him by demanding a bride price of 6,800 yen, around $1,000, hoping he would give up. On the afternoon of March 9th, 2001, Jin went to Wei's house again and said, "Will you come with me or not? I'm giving you one last chance." Wei firmly replied that she would rather die than go back to him. Enraged, Jin stabbed Wei to death. After the murder, Jin hid her body under the bed and fled to Hebei province. Along the way, he realized it would be hard to escape the death penalty, so he decided to return to Shijiazhuang to settle scores with everyone who had wronged him. On March 14th, 2001, Jin Ruchao purchased 575 kilograms of explosives for 950 yuan from Wang Yushan and his wife, packing the explosives into 14 sacks. Jin then made a list of his enemies. He harbored hatred toward his ex-wife and the son he suspected wasn't his, loathed his former in-laws for agreeing to the divorce, despised his sister for selling the family house without his consent, and only giving him 10,000 yuan, and resented his father for remarrying. For revenge, Jin decided to plant bombs in the dormitory and apartment buildings where his targets lived, even placing bombs near his own house to harm the neighbors who had always looked down on him. Detonating explosives at multiple locations was not easy, so Jin used 50 fuses, manufacturing and installing detonation devices at each site. In the early hours of March 16th, 2001, Jin hid in Building 15 of the dormitory at Cotton Textile Factory No. 3, where his father and stepmother lived. He set off the first explosion at 4:16 a.m. Immediately after the massive blast that caused the walls to collapse, Jin moved to his next target, his own home in Building 16, detonating the bomb there at 4:20 a.m. After finishing his deeds, Jin escaped through the small south gate of the dormitory, took a taxi to the dormitory where his former in-laws lived, and detonated a bomb there at 4:30 a.m. He then continued his attacks at the dormitory of his ex-wife at 4:45 a.m. and his sister's house at 5 a.m. With a series of deafening explosions, the city of Shijiazhuang was engulfed in blood-soaked terror. The dormitory at Building 15 of the Cotton Textile Factory No. 3, which did not have as many explosives planted, only had its western wall collapse with no casualties. Building 16 suffered the worst damage, as the entire structure collapsed, killing 93 people and injuring 12, all of whom were Jin's neighbors. The residence of Jin's ex-wife and son also collapsed, resulting in 10 deaths and 6 injuries. The dormitory where his former in-laws lived saw 5 deaths and 20 injuries. His sister's 2-story house also collapsed, but fortunately, no one was killed as fewer explosives were used. In less than an hour, Jin Ruchao had caused the deaths of 108 people and seriously injured 38 others. The scale of the casualties and the cruelty of the attacks shocked the entire nation. The Hebei Provincial Public Security Bureau immediately set up a special task force directly commanded by senior leaders. The Ministry of Public Security mobilized more than 20 criminal investigation experts from across the country to assist the local police in the investigation. Upon analysis, the police noticed that the type of explosives and the detonation method used in all 5 explosions were identical, and the timing was highly concentrated, leading them to believe that the perpetrator was likely a single individual or a group. Since all the explosions occurred in residential areas, the motive was highly likely to be revenge. Because the dormitory at Cotton Textile Factory No. 3 suffered the most severe damage, the police immediately held meetings with the neighborhood management and other residents, quickly identifying Jin Ruchao as the prime suspect. By this time, Jin had fled to Beihai City in Guangxi Province, planning to escape across the border. On March 23, 2001, he was arrested by Beihai police. After being escorted back to Shijiazhuang, Jin Ruchao confessed to all of his crimes and also revealed the identities of 3 individuals who had supplied him with the explosives and fuses. All 3 were considered accomplices and were arrested. During his interrogation, Jin arrogantly declared, "Yes, I set off the bombs. I've wanted to blow them up for a long time." On April 17, 2001, Jin Ruchao and his 3 accomplices were sentenced to death. What do you think about today's case? Please leave your comments below so we can discuss it together. Don't forget to support us with a like and subscribe to the channel to motivate our team to bring more dramatic cases. And that concludes today's case. Thank you, dear viewers, for watching. Goodbye, and see you next time.